Have you ever found yourself feeling incredibly confident about something, only to realize that later you might have underestimated the complexity of the task? Perhaps you started learning a new instrument or tried mastering a new sport filled with certainty that you'd excel, but soon discovered there was much more to the skill than you initially thought. This experience is quite common and is often explained by a psychological phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. I'm Roach, Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent, my YouTube channel where I share my fascinating journey around the world through life in athletics, business, engineering, entertainment, mysticism, psychology, and spirituality. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias where individuals with limited knowledge or competence in a particular area overestimate their own abilities. This concept was identified by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Krueger in 1999 and has become, since, a fascinating topic for discussion across fields such as education, professional development, and even personal growth. It's an intriguing insight into human behavior, highlighting the gap between what we think we know and what we actually know. At the heart of the Dunning-Kruger effect is the notion that people with lower competence lack the metacognitive skills to evaluate their own performance accurately. In simple terms, the less you know about a subject, the less likely you are to recognize your ignorance. This leads to overconfidence, a phenomenon where people with limited competence often believe they are better than they really are. Conversely, those with more expertise tend to be more aware of the complexities and thus may underestimate their abilities, having a more realistic, sometimes even modest view of their own skills. This cognitive bias unfolds in several distinct stages, often visually represented as a curve. Initially, as a newcomer or to a skill in a knowledge or domain, an individual stands at the peak of the mount. Call it stupid at this stage. Confidence is high, but actually competence is really low. With just a little bit of information, these individuals feel they've mastered the topic. However, as they begin to learn more, they enter the valley of despair. Here, the depth of their ignorance becomes apparent, and their confidence takes a nosedive. It's a realization that there is so much more to learn, leading to feelings of inadequacy. The journey doesn't end there, though. As individuals continue to gain genuine expertise, they progress to the slope of enlightenment, where both competence and confidence rise steadily. Finally, they reach the plateau of sustainability, where their confidence level aligns more closely with their actual abilities. At this stage, they have a realistic view of their skills, recognizing both their strengths and areas for improvement. The original study by David Dunning and Justin Krueger used tests of humor, grammar, and logic to illustrate this effect. Participants who scored in the lowest quartile tended to overestimate their abilities significantly, often believing they performed above average despite poor results. This disconnect between perceived and actual competence is not just a quirk of human nature, but a fundamental aspect of self-assessment and metacognition. One might wonder why this happens. The metacognitive deficit explanation provides some answers. It suggests that individuals with low competence lack the ability to accurately assess their performance because the abilities required for competence are the same needed to evaluate that competence. In essence, if you don't know much about a topic, you don't know enough to recognize your own lack of knowledge. Interestingly, as people improve their skills, they also become more adept at recognizing their own limitations. This paradoxical nature of the effect means that those with the least knowledge are the most confident, while those with more knowledge are often more aware of the complexities, leading to a more tempered, realistic assessment of their abilities. However, some researchers have proposed alternative explanations for Dunning-Kruger effect. Recent studies have suggested that what we perceive as a cognitive bias might actually be a statistical artifact. Under this theory, the patterns observed in Dunning-Kruger effect can be explained by statistical phenomena, such as regression to the mean and the bounded nature of performance scales. This implies that the effect might not necessarily be tied to cognitive deficiencies, but rather to the way statistical data is interpreted and presented. These statistical explanations argue that since there's more room for error at the lower end of performance scales, low performers naturally exhibit more optimistic evaluations. Higher performers, on the other hand, have less room to overestimate due to the upper limits of these scales, which might inherently produce the S-shaped curve associated with the Dunning-Kruger effect without invoking psychological explanations. So despite these alternative views, the Dunning-Kruger effect remains a powerful tool for understanding not only individual self-assessments, but also broader social phenomena. It can explain why sometimes the loudest voices in the room are not necessarily the most knowledgeable. In discussions, whether online or in person, it's often the least informed individual who are the most confident in their assertions. This has profound implications for decision-making processes in organizations, public discourse, and in educational environments. The implications of the Dunning-Kruger effect go beyond just identifying overconfidence. It emphasizes the importance of continuous learning and self-reflection. Developing metacognitive skills, our ability to think about thinking, can help individuals more accurately gauge their competence. Encouraging a culture of feedback, promoting lifelong learning, and fostering environments where questioning and curiosity are valued can mitigate the risk of overconfidence linked to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Moreover, understanding this cognitive bias can help us become more empathetic communicators. Recognizing that someone might be genuinely unaware of their limitations and can shift our approach from criticism to support. Encouraging learning and providing constructive feedback can help bridge the gap between perceived and actual competence. For educators, acknowledging this effect is crucial. It can inform teaching methods and assessment practices, pushing a shift from rote learning to developing critical thinking and self-assessment abilities. For leaders and managers, understanding this bias can help them in creating teams that are balanced, where self-awareness and expertise are encouraged. In our personal lives, being aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect can move us toward humility. It's a reminder that there is always more to learn and that acknowledging what we don't know is as important as knowing what we do. It's about finding that balance between confidence and humility, which is essential not only for personal growth, but also for meaningful contributions to whatever domain we choose to engage with. Ultimately, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a journey of self-discovery. It highlights the dynamic nature of learning and the fluidity of self-perception. As we navigate through life, embracing the Dunning-Kruger effect means welcoming the possibility of being wrong and seeing it as an opportunity to learn rather than a failure. Understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect is not just an academic exercise. It's a practical tool that can enrich our interactions, improve our personal development, and refine our self-awareness. As we continue to explore this fascinating aspect of human psychology, it opens doors for a more profound understanding of ourselves and the world around us. So next time you feel that surge of confidence in a new skill, pause for a moment. Consider maybe you're at the peak of Mount Stupid, or perhaps further along on the slope of enlightenment. Recognize the Dunning-Kruger Effect for the insightful tool it is, a pathway to deeper knowledge and greater wisdom. I'm Mark Roach, wishing you all the best.